Brooklyn ain't sleeping, not after Trock's funeral, not after the bodies that hit the dirt. And in season 2, forget about it, it only gets bloodier. Nick, he's losing sleep, losing trust, maybe losing his mind. Goku, he's clenching the reins, dragging the family deeper into the shadows. And Bambi Palermo, she's walking the tightrope between Fed and family, with the devil in silk waiting to pull her strings. Christians in town making moves, making threats, and making sure nobody gets out clean, not even her. Meanwhile, the allies are restless, the enemies are bold, and the feds, even they can't tell who's wearing the white hat no more. This ain't just Brooklyn anymore. This is a goddamn bloodline war, and everybody's got something to lose. Coming soon to the Pizzaverse, to YouTube, to anybody dumb enough to watch. Brooklyn Bloodlines, you either ride with us, or you get buried by us. Capiche? Bambi's Twisted Tales, the Muffin Man, the lane that always smelled sweet. Drury Lane wore its perfume like a lie you could taste. Vanilla, cinnamon, a whisper of nutmeg catching in your throat. Gas lamps sputtered, windows fogged, and at the crooked end squatted a bakery with a sign hanging by a single rusted hook, the Muffin Man. The townsfolk treated the place like church, only difference was the muffins answered prayers faster than God. Mothers brought their kids, cops took their coffee, and the priest blessed the door every Easter like he was trying to bribe heaven. The baker, plump cheeks, flour-dusted apron, eyes like polished marbles, real friendly, real forgettable. But if you stood by that door after midnight, when the mixers thumped like a second heartbeat and the ovens hissed like snakes, the sweet turned sour. You'd catch a metallic thread in the air, an iron tang that didn't belong in pastry. And if you were smart, you'd walk away, cross yourself, and never look back. Nobody on Drury Lane was smart. Mrs. Callahan ran on rumor and lemon poppy seeds. She bought a dozen every morning, then parked herself by the window to monitor the block like a one-woman surveillance team. One Thursday, rain hanging low, carts clapping through puddles, she walked in, chattered about the price of eggs, and vanished. Shoes left by the mat, kettle on the stove, reading glasses open on a crossword begging for the word missing. The only new thing in her kitchen was a warm tray of muffins arranged like a wreath, steam curling like a beckoning finger. Folks said she took a trip to her sister's. Nobody could remember if she had one. They ate and praised the light crumb, the bright lemon, the crunch of poppy. The town swallowed the story and the pastries in the same bite. 2 weeks later, the milkman's horse stood puzzled in the lane, reins slack, bottles clinking a nervous tune. His route ended at the bakery's back door. His footsteps didn't make the return trip. Kids joked the chocolate chips tasted cowish. Adults told them to shut it. The priest's sermon that Sunday mentioned temptation and gluttony. He pointed at the bakery and smiled. Nobody heard the warning under the wink. Addiction don't bark, it purrs. Tommy Doyle, pockets fast, morals slow, slid through a propped window on a windy night and smelled cold steel, Freon, and something that made his tongue go dry. He found the freezer by accident, felt the breath of it kiss his face, saw butcher paper bundles stacked like bricks in a clean white wall. Each parcel wore a name scrawled in red marker: Callahan, Miller, Kensington. The ink bled through, little halos leaking into paper like tears. Something shifted inside the heap. Plastic creaked, a tiny muffled whimper, or maybe the hum of the condenser playing tricks on a guilty mind. Tommy ran, smashed into a rack, rattled a tray of cooling blueberry domes that looked like eyes. The slam of the freezer latch behind him sounded too satisfied to be an accident. Tommy burst into his kitchen swearing he saw arms in butcher wrap and heard voices frozen mid-prayer. His ma smacked the nonsense out of him, told him to quit lying or go confess it. By dawn, the breeze flipped the lane's perfume. Cinnamon peeled back, iron stepped forward. Windows shut, boil kettles rolled harder. And then the baker was outside, smiling, sleeves rolled, handing out warm samples, steam rising like absolution. The town made a choice without saying it. They decided flavor mattered more than fear. Happens every day in 1,000 ways, sweetheart. The Flatfoots came with paperwork faces and hungry bellies. The Muffin Man gave 'em the tour, oily floors, perfect racks, the sanctified glow of the ovens, and poured coffee dark enough to confess to. "Freezer," a sergeant grunted. The baker sighed about regulations, swung it open to show a saint's pantry, butter, berries, bags of flour. Not a name, not a bundle in sight. Did he move it? Did they not see? Or did they decide they saw nothing because their mouths were full? They left with gift boxes and swore the town was safe. Paperwork faces, pastry fingers. Tommy stopped sleeping. Every time he blinked, he saw the list in red ink, heard plastic wrinkle like breath under ice. He followed the baker in the rain, watched him drag burlap sacks to a cellar hatch, saw the hatch gulp the sacks like a mouth. The boy counted steps, 13 down. He sketched the bakery from memory, a map annotated with shakes of his pen. Freezer, hatch, drain. He carried matches in his pocket, a little bottle of kerosene tucked in his belt. Fear makes cowards. Shame makes arsonists. Thunder kicked the windows when Tommy slipped back in and found the leather book hiding behind a sack of sugar. Grease stains darkened the corners. The pages smelled like cloves and copper. Not recipes, instructions. Cuts and weights, ratios and temperatures, leg, cross-hatched, awful, minced, eye jelly, glaze. Scrawls in the margins argued with God. Waste is a sin. Amen is a timer. On the first page, a dedication scratched so hard it gouged the paper. To keep the ovens fed, feed the oven's flesh. Tommy gagged, clutched the book to his chest, and ran into a night that forgot how to breathe. Tommy read out loud in the square, voice cracking, hands shaking, book held high like a burning bush that refused to light. Neighbors stared. Mothers yanked children away. A butcher laughed and called it urban poetry. The priest muttered something about parables and temptation. The cops warned the kid about slander. The baker offered him a tray of forgiveness muffins, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. By evening, the book vanished from Tommy's hands. He didn't drop it, didn't sell it. One blink it existed, next blink it didn't. Some things get taken back by the thing that wrote 'em. Father McGinty finally grew a spine and preached hellfire. "Evil walks among the ovens," he thundered, knuckles white on the pulpit. Monday morning, the church doors were locked from the inside. Parish smelled like scorched wheat and beeswax. The chalice sat polished on the altar, full of something too dark to be wine. A basket of poppy seed minis waited in the vestibule with a ribbon and a tag for the flock. Nobody ate, not that day. Even addicts got limits, briefly. Tommy packed a rope, a siphoned jug of kerosene, and a trembling prayer that didn't know who it belonged to. He crouched by the cellar hatch, counted 13 steps in his head, and pictured the book's diagrams like maps out of hell. He soaked the frame, set the trail, whispered, "Sorry," and struck the match. The flame crawled with a cat's patience, then leapt with a wolf's teeth, finding old grease and fresh sin. Glass screamed, ovens roared. In the window, a round face watched through the fire, Baker's cheeks boiling, eyes glinting with a joy that wasn't human. He didn't move to escape. He inhaled the smoke like incense. Dawn found the town in a circle around a blackened bakery that refused to be a corpse. The walls stood, blistered but proud. The signs still swung, charred letters readable through the soot. Inside, the ovens glowed low like coals banked for the next day's bread. Admiral Iron Fist Impeach sits in a dark room, cigarette smoke hanging thick. A single lamp swings overhead, throwing long shadows. Admiral Impeach sits there, uniform open, sleeves rolled, scar on his jaw. His eyes lock like he's looking straight through you. "You know who I am. You heard the name. Admiral Iron Fist Impeach, the one they whisper about when deals go sideways." He picks up a set of folded blueprints, slaps them down on the table with a heavy hand. "They come to me for weapons, for leverage, for power, and I don't ask questions. You pay, you play. That's how Brooklyn works. That's how I work." Nick Palermo staring at a half-empty glass of whiskey, Lopez dragging Mikey the Hammer out to a blood-soaked bar, Goku pounding his fist as the crew jumps. Nick's losing his grip. Goku's cracking skulls to keep order. Lopez, he's digging graves in the dark, and that silk-wearing devil's in telly. He thinks he's playing chess. Impeach leans in closer, his face half in shadow. "But let me tell you something. There ain't no chess without the Admiral. Every piece moves 'cause I say so. Every king falls when I push it." He grabs a chess king, slams it down. The sound echoes like a gunshot. His eyes don't leave the lens. Brooklyn Bloodlines Season 2, coming soon. And remember, when I make a move, somebody always ends up dead. Brooklyn Bloodlines Season 2, coming soon. On the counter, a tray of muffins, perfect domes, whispering steam. Tommy looked for bodies, for ash shaped like a man, found nothing but footprints that began at the back door and ended at the edge of the lane, where the cobbles turned to river. The baker had walked away on feet that left no soot. Tommy went missing the next night. His mother tore the wallpaper looking for a secret door. Neighbors brought plates and pity and zero courage. The next batch out of the bakery tasted richer, like the sugar remembered sorrow. Folks swore the raisins looked like little brown eyes that followed them across the room. They still ate. Of course they did. Hunger is a leash, and habit's the hand that holds it. Something settled over the lane, fog thicker, lamps dimmer, footsteps softer. Strangers who moved in vanished within a fortnight. Travelers who asked for directions toward the sweet smell never reached their destination. Cats went fat and silent. Crows lined the church roof like notes on a staff. And every morning at 6, the Muffin Man opened his door, rang his bell, and sang a nursery rhyme in a voice 2 notes lower than any man had a right to sing. It started with 1 house, then 3, then the whole block. A knock after midnight. Not loud, polite, the sort of knock a neighbor uses when borrowing sugar. If you answered, you met a smile and an offer, "Do you know the Muffin Man?" If you said yes, he handed you a basket and left. If you said no, he came in anyway and left the basket on your kitchen table while you stood frozen, manners glued to your bones. In the morning, if the basket was empty, so was your bed. Lena Kensington, widow's granddaughter, copper hair, nerves of piano wire, bit into a blueberry and felt her tongue sting like she'd licked a 9-volt battery. She spat, and a tiny bead of blue jelly hit the plate and blinked. She screamed, vomited, and swore off bread forever. While the town called her dramatic, Lena sketched the bakery's frontage from memory, traced the back alley, the hatch, the drain. She pinned the drawing above her desk and wrote one word under it: hollow. Then she started asking the right questions to the wrong people. Lena lifted the hatch with a crowbar, counted 13 steps into a cold that felt like the inside of a bell. The walls sweated. Hooks hung from a beam like a line of punctuation marks waiting for bad news. She found a drain slick with something that didn't belong to soup. On a shelf, labels, tags, red markers dried stiff. In a busted pocket watch on the workbench, a photo, blurred, old. The baker standing straight as a nail in a white coat, beside another man in the same coat. Underneath, in that carved, desperate hand, we keep the ovens fed so they don't feed on us. She pocketed the watch and ran before the 13th step remembered her. She came back with salt, chalk, and a mason jar full of river water, drew a ring around the biggest oven and spoke prayers learned in 2 languages to a god who owed her a favor. The oven sighed, no air moved, yet the flame inside curled like it heard its name. The door rattled once. Lena hurled the river water. Steam exploded, stinking of wet hair. From inside the pipe came a voice thin as a whisker. Hungry. Another voice overlapped it, then another, a choir of thin nothings grinding like gears. She stepped back slow, marked the door with salt, and swore never to come alone again. The book found her in a place books don't go, tucked in her coat when she hadn't brought a coat. The last page she hadn't seen before was brittle as onion skin, letters carved so deep they cut her finger just to read 'em. It spoke of an oven that wasn't metal, that moved from town to town like a traveling show, that demanded tribute in flesh, or it would take its own. A covenant. Bake or be baked. It told how the first baker ran out of strangers and turned on neighbors, then on himself, then on anyone who tried to starve the flame. It ended with instructions for breaking the bond. Give it back what it gave you. Hunger. She stared at those words until they looked like a door. Lena rang the bell at 6 with a basket of stones under a blanket of stale bread. A gift, she said, and smiled like a parishioner. The baker nodded, eyes flat as counter marble, and let her in. She walked to the ovens with the reverence of a priest and whispered to the flame in the language of lack. All the empty chairs, the quiet spoons, the beds that never cooled. She named every person the book had named, and every person Tommy had tried to save. She opened the oven and fed it the bread, then the stones beneath, then the folded apron she'd stolen from the hook, then the photograph from the watch, and finally the book itself. The flame flinched at the stones, snarled at the apron, screamed at the photo, and starved at the book. The room chilled. The hum died. For the first time in anyone's memory, Drury Lane smelled like rain. Outside, a crowd gathered, half hungry, half ashamed. The baker stared at Lena with eyes that finally showed a human thing: fear. He stepped back, stumbled into the empty oven's open mouth like a man missing a stair, and fell into a darkness that did not echo. The door swung shut with a hush like a prayer answered late. The ovens went cold, truly cold, a hollowness so clean it made her teeth ache. Lena walked out, left the door open, and let the building breathe. By evening, the sign fell, the hook snapped, and a wind carried the last smell of cinnamon away, like a rumor losing heart. Weeks later, folks tried to bake again. Yeast rose, bread browned, and nobody vanished. But on nights the fog comes low and the lamps stutter, a polite knock will still test a door somewhere in the world, and a soft voice will ask if you know a nursery rhyme. Don't answer. Let hunger pass you by. Morale. Don't trust sweetness that asks you to stop asking questions. Evil don't always come with fangs. It comes with samples, smiles, and a tray still warm from the oven. Tradition's beautiful when it ain't feeding a monster. If this one twisted your gut like a baker wringing dough, do the thing. Subscribe, hit the bell, drop a comment, and tell a friend to keep their doors locked on Drury Lane. More nightmares coming fresh from the Pizzaverse ovens. But ours won't eat ya, I swear on Nonna.